You know, I'm kind of in the middle of trying to grow a full beard now. I think I've gained enough to the point where I think it could work, but it's been about how many days are we in April? 25 days ever since I shaved, and yeah, it's really not looking good. So I'm gonna give it like maybe another week or two, and I'll see if I want to just shave it off again. But I'm trying to see if I can grow it out, and I'm looking like a neck beard. It's not a waifu, but close enough. Hello everybody and welcome to the 12th episode of the Burnout series. And it's all about Talladega this week. And you know, the big boy, the most iconic track, or second most iconic, third most, fourth. Oh, it's a big track. All right. Like usual, Talladega is always a fantastic race weekend, except when it's not. And this weekend was no different. Something I really like about the next-gen car is that it did exactly what it was supposed to do, was bringing back the golden years of racing, and we got to see it this year, once again this weekend at Talladega, as we got to see some great 2000s era racing once again. Not many wrecks until the end, and overall, just amazing racing. I don't know why people are complaining about it, or people think it was bad racing, because this was exactly the type of racing we saw in the early 2000s. And honestly, it makes me really happy to see that type of racing back once again. I feel like a lot of people have forgotten that in the early 2000s, late 90s, we didn't see many cautions. I think in the 2002 season, there was not a single caution in the Talladega races in 2002. And I think that's really going to help NASCAR in the long term. It's also why I support getting rid of stage cautions, because we can see once again those fast caution-free racing, which we saw in the past as well. Like, for example, the fastest race in NASCAR history in 1997 with Mark Martin winning was caution-free. Dale Jr.'s wins in 2002 came at caution-free Talladega races. I think Bobby Hamilton's final win was also caution-free victory. So yeah, I definitely support seeing caution-free racing once again if we get rid of those stage cautions. And this year was no different, and I feel like it would have been even better if they let them cook instead of just seeing a bunch of cautions at the end of the race, but it was still a fantastic race. So first things first, of course, Kyle Busch scoring his second victory for RCR. So yeah, we're already got a prediction right as long as Busch doesn't win any more races this year, which obviously he's going to win more than more than 2 races this year. So yeah, there we go. Half point for the end of the year, because I undershot it, which is better than overshooting. So yeah, Kyle Busch kind of got a little bit lucky at the end. So for the sake of it being Talladega weekend, I'm going to be putting the question of did he deserve it and shelving it because it's Talladega, and I feel like it'd be kind of unfair to say that Kyle Busch didn't really deserve that victory, because overall he did kind of a little bit. Something I've noticed with like Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski and the other JGR cars at late races is that they usually tend to stay in the back of the field throughout the majority of the race, just mainly so they don't have to worry about getting caught up in a late wreck or something and causing them to lose the race and getting taken out of the race. But then in those last 30 laps, they turn the burners on, they just go shooting up the field. And I think that's what really helps those teams, and usually why we get to see those drivers up at the front. That's why we get to see like drivers like Brad Keselowski win a lot all the time, is because he just sits in the back. They've mastered the whole plan of how to win at Talladega. Stay in the back until around the end of the race, shoot your way up to the front and get lucky, and you'll manage to win the race. And despite that, this is actually Kyle Busch's first Talladega victory since 2008. This was actually his first victory since he joined JGR. So his first Talladega race with JGR he won, and his first Talladega race with RCR he won. So that was really good. And it's also benefited his sponsor as well. It was a grill company. I think it was called McLaren Grills, I believe. Crashed their freaking website the day after the race. Honestly, really cool. I definitely like to see new sponsors, especially like how good McLaren is as promoting their driver. I mean, they have a NASCAR-themed grill with like the Busch car on it. I really want that if I can get it. But no, I'm poor, and we already have a good grill. Ain't gonna happen today. So that was really good. Yeah, good job, Kyle Busch. You did a good job this weekend. You managed to pull it off flawlessly, I guess. But yeah, like usual with it being Talladega, of course, we got to see a lot of underdogs up at the front of the field having a fantastic race weekend. Of course, I think some of the big ones at the end of the race. Noah Gragson was up there at the front in the 42 car. Almost could have had a shot at winning until Ross Chastain decided to do one of the stupidest things I have seen all year. Come on, man. You couldn't make that free wide work. And then he wrecked the whole field. And I'll explain what happened also when we get to there. Justin Haley was up in the top 10 as well. Ty Gibbs was actually leading one of the lanes for a while as well in the 54. Had a great run until late in the race when he ran out of gas. And then Harrison Burton as well, being up the front as well. And I kind of was hoping that he might have actually pulled off the victory, but got spun out late in the race and never really got to recover. But yeah, like I mentioned, in that second-to-last crash that involved Gragson and Chastain, there was also a really nasty hit with Kyle Larson and Ryan Preece. Preece completely just T-boning Larson on the passenger side, not the driver's side, but still, probably one of the hardest hits I have seen in a while. Probably even the hardest hit we've seen in the next gen, but both drivers are okay right now, so that's good to see. I mean, man, a lot of people, for how bad the next gen has been with safety, a lot of people have forgotten how bad the cars were in the past and how dangerous the sport used to be. I feel like if that happened in like an older car before the Hans device and everything, that crash probably would have been Preece's career-ending crash, but thankfully, with the Hans device and NASCAR's other attempts at trying to make more safety, Preece gets to race another day, Larson gets to race another day, and that's great to see. But I think one thing that NASCAR should definitely look at is the passenger side roll cage. The crash was so hard, the roll cage literally dislocated on the car, and you could see it out the window, which is honestly just terrifying to see. But the thing is, a lot of people have forgotten that the driver's side of the roll cage is different from the passenger side of the roll cage. So I feel like if that was a driver's side hit, that still would have been really hard, but it probably wouldn't have dislocated the roll cage like the passenger side did. Yep, and then of course, the other driver to talk about, definitely a big driver this weekend, like usual at the big tracks, is Bubba Wallace in the 23. Man, you already saw my reaction if you saw that video. Of just me being absolutely disappointed with that ending. But at the same time, I can't blame him. It's the last lap. All your cards are on the table. You can't take chances. And honestly, yeah, he ended up putting a really bad block at the end of the race and just ended up wrecking himself out, which just kind of sucks, honestly. Because Bubba, he is a fantastic driver at the super speedways. He's pretty much equivalent to like the DEI drivers in the 2000s. I mean, he knows how to tear through the field when he needs to. We saw it at the 500 lows this year. Every single time he ended up having an issue that put him in the back of the field. Like, probably 10, 15 laps later, he's back up at the front. So, you really can't get rid of him at a super speedway unless you take him out of the race completely in a wreck, which most of the time, that usually doesn't happen until the final lap or the closing laps. So, I feel like if Bubba had a little bit more luck, he might be able to score his third victory of his career. So, it's coming. Probably going to come this year. But if you ask me, man, it's just, I even said that I feel like Bubba Wallace is probably the most unluckiest driver right now in the sport. And that's insane. I mean, he's come so close so many times, but also not to mention a controversy that happened 3 years ago is still being brought up with many people saying that this is why he's in NASCAR. It's not because he's a good driver, it's because of his race. Like, are you serious? Like, by your logic, Jesse Ujway would be in the Cup Series as well, but he's not. So, Bubba's in the Cup Series because he's a great driver. He's one of the best drivers in the country. Like, the race doesn't friggin' matter. It's not that hard. I don't know. It's like, it sucks too, because he's a fantastic driver. It's just, when he was setting up his special stats, he accidentally put a 1 on luck, so. But hopefully things will change someday. I hope he doesn't retire, because I feel like he's getting really frustrated right now with his performance. But I feel like if he just stopped racing to prove himself and just raced to be a good driver, I feel like he's definitely going to benefit significantly, because that's something I feel like he's doing a lot now, is he just wants to prove himself to the whole world. And to an extent, he already has. I mean, he's already won at Talladega and he's already won at Kansas. So he's won 2 races. A big chunk of drivers, majority of drivers in NASCAR can't even do that. Many drivers don't even win 1 race. So he's already proven himself, if you ask me. But give it some time, and I think he's going to be, once again, a fantastic driver. Not really champion-worthy, but he's definitely going to be winning maybe 10 or so races, maybe a dozen races in his career, which, if you ask me, I think was still a pretty good career. So, I mean, one of my favorite drivers of all time only won 1 race in his whole career. That guy. So, all right. And then that's pretty much it for the Cup race. Fantastic weekend. 9.5, kind of heading on 10. Man, when I was there last year, I was just blown away by how good the race was, and yeah. Hopefully we'll go there again soon. We might go in the fall, but I'm not 100% certain. So yeah. And then we're already like 11 minutes in. I keep talking about it. I spent a lot of time talking about blah blah. But yeah. All right. Then moving on to the Xfinity race. Jeb Burton winning his first race with Jordan Anderson Racing. His second win of his career, I believe, with his first win coming with Colleague. Fantastic weekend for them. Especially since the last Talladega race before this, Jordan Anderson was nearly killed in that crash. I mean, that was honestly insane. I talked about it, how if he tried getting out of that car like a second early, we'd probably seen the first fatal crash since 2001, which is honestly terrifying. But yep, they managed to redeem themselves. They managed to recover, and Jordan Anderson managed to make it to victory lane for I believe the first time in their career. So pretty nice. But other than that, yeah, the Xfinity race was pretty chaotic. I mean, we got to see 2 major flips this weekend. Blaine Perkins was the first one with one of the wildest flips I have seen in a long time. I think the last time I saw a flip like that was probably Scott Riggs in 2005. So yeah, that was an insane flip, but he is out of the hospital now, I believe. So yeah, wild flip for the O2 car. And then the second one being Daniel Hemrick in the 11 after getting into the fence. So,
and if SpongeBob does not pass this one, it means another whole year of boarding school.
Aww. I did predict that there was going to be 2 flips in the Xfinity Truck Series. We got 2 flips this weekend, so half a point. And then meanwhile, we got to see once again Junior Motorsports was up at the front of for a while, and almost looked like they could have pulled off a victory again. But like I always mentioned, I feel like Junior Motorsports is too busy fighting each other than actually trying to win races. And they all end up wrecking out once again. And as for Sheldon Creed, how many times is it now that my prediction finished second in the race? Alright, so yeah, that's pretty much it for Talladega this weekend. I love this track. It's fantastic. If you have yet to go to the track, I feel like that's definitely a track that every NASCAR fan should go to on their bucket list. So, pack your bags, see you in the fall, maybe. I don't know. So, yeah. Alright, and then before we move on, we got some other things to talk about. So, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. And, yeah, my liver stash is out, so I'm going to need your liver again. So, if you still haven't given it to me, better do it. Alright, let's move on. Alright, so we got some other things to talk about this weekend as well. Probably the first things first is I mentioned how Justin Haley has been having a rough time with penalties as of recent, but I guess NASCAR finally read the room and realized that Hendrick privilege is stupid. So they amended the penalty and restored his points, but the fines and crew suspension is still intact. But, I mean, they still managed to get all their points back that they lost at Phoenix, so I mean, it's a start, but NASCAR, just remember, you got to be more consistent with your points. Just because Hendrick is Hendrick doesn't mean they're above the law. So, Then next up is a track-based announcement, of course. Gateway, which is the Worldwide Technology Raceway, but I think Gateway is a little bit better. Is announcing they're going to be doing some renovations to the infield. Now that they're holding Cup races now, they want to get up with the times. And they are doing a brand new infield, a more fan experience infield. We've been seeing a lot more tracks this before. Talladega, Daytona, I think Richmond as well, Phoenix. They've all been doing a lot of this more stuff with a lot more fan experience, fan-friendly infields. And I think that's something NASCAR should definitely be supporting because it gives fans a better experience. I feel like that gives NASCAR more of a stadium feel with their racetracks with an infield. where like drivers can hang out, get autographs from drivers, and just be able to see their favorite cars being worked on, which I think is really cool to see. I mean, I've been to Daytona and Talladega. They have really good fan experiences. Talladega, I think, is my absolute favorite with Big Mills. I mean, you got like that infield lounge with the garages on both sides. It was just really cool. You get an autograph from your favorite driver, and then you go get a really cheap hot dog. Really cool to see. And I think every single track should definitely do that. But for some reason, Michigan sells a nut because they refuse to spend money on that track. The only thing they spend money on is destroy their grandstands. Man, I'd definitely love to go to more Michigan races, but they're just so outdated. Man, come on. All right, and then lastly, like I mentioned before, last weekend as well, NASCAR's doing work on a 75 greatest drivers of all time, which is sort of an expansion of their 50 greatest drivers of all time from 1998. They're adding 25 more drivers. Last week they had 5, and this week they added 5 more, which is actually 6, because I already mentioned last week, Greg Biffle was the driver that was announced during the Burnout production, as well as Sterling Marlin, which was also announced. And then after that, Ryan Newman, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Carl Edwards were also added to the 75 greatest drivers of all time. Every single one of these drivers are fantastic, regardless on what you think about Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin. I mean, like I already mentioned before, Greg Biffle, fantastic Roush driver, was always up the front, being really consistent. I got to go see his final win at Michigan in 2013. Was my first Cup race, so am I his bad luck charm? Was I his bad luck charm? I don't know. Sterling Marlin, of course, being a back-to-back Daytona 500 winner. Could have won 3, but no, of course he couldn't have. Just being a fantastic veteran driver late in his career. Could have won a championship in 2002, but of course we can't have nice things. Ryan Newman, of course. I mean, he's freaking Ryan Newman. I mean, he was one of the fastest drivers. He was always great in qualifying. I mean, he literally managed to escape death in 2020, so that was really cool. I mean, to see him be in the greatest drivers of all time, I'm not saying this crash was cool. That was absolutely terrifying. I nearly cried after I saw that wreck. And then Denny Hamlin, I mean, regardless of what you think, he is definitely probably one of the greatest drivers currently racing in the sport. He's managed to win pretty much every crown jewel race at this point. I mean, come on, 3-time Daytona 500 winner. He won the Coke 600 last year. I mean, did he win a Brickyard 400? I don't think he won a Brickyard 400, but yeah, Hamlin's a fantastic driver. Probably JGR's best driver right now. Chase Elliott, of course, he's freaking Chase Elliott. He's probably the next Jeff Gordon at this point. I mean, he was already the next Jeff Gordon, but I mean, he's already a champion, and he's just been a fantastic driver. He's legendary for being a fan favorite too. So, yep. And then Carl Edwards, yep, definitely deserved it, especially. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, he's been so close so many times. He nearly won a championship in 2016. He definitely deserved more, but on the bright side, he has definitely been recognized as one of the greatest to ever get behind a stock car. So, yeah. And that's it for this weekend. So, before we go, we got our Dover predictions this weekend. Off to a short track. Is Dover a short track? I guess. I call it short track. I mean, it's a mile long, so the Monster Mile. So, here we go. For the Xfinity Series, I don't know why I keep torturing myself and predicting JRM drivers are going to win, but maybe this weekend they finally do it. I got Josh Berry as my prediction. They're probably going to end up killing each other in this race, and all 4 of them will wreck out. We'll probably see like Colin Racing know the victory lane again. So, and then lastly, for the Cup prediction, I'm actually going to be going with Denny Hamlin scoring his first victory of the year in the number 11 car. So, yeah, he's kind of had a rough start this season, but I feel like this weekend at Dover, he finally goes on to score his first victory of the year. And that is that. And there you go, guys. That is it for episode 12. How did I make it this far? I don't know. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. See you next week to talk about the Dover race, as well as all the other news that came out this weekend, as well as the next drivers in the 75 greatest drivers list. And thank you guys so much for watching. And goodbye. Time to do some workouts. I'm losing weight, and I gotta do some muscle building too, because my arms are so freaking thin. Alright. There we go. Oh no, I hit my face. Ow. Ooh, ouch. Owie.